Hello everyone, welcome back to my country farmhouse sewing room. I'm Marnay and this is the final conclusion of the Jeep quilt. The Here Boy tutorial that I've done sew along. If you haven't followed along in the beginning of this video, this was a free pattern from modafabrics.com. I printed this off and did a complete tutorial of how I done this quilt. And I put up the backside first, but it is finished. It has been quilted and also it has been binded. So I did put a paw print quilting on this, and I found a pattern that had large, medium, and small doggy footprints with some swirls in it. I did hang this up so you could see the back side because I really love the back side and I really love how I did the Jeep in the quilt. And I'm just going to kind of move you down so you can see the whole thing. So it does say Jeep down the middle. The Jeep fabric I had was not a wide back, so I improvised and added a little piece in it just to make it interesting. But the front looks amazing with the little Jeep paws around the bone and on the bones, and I did a gray thread. And I will put a little insert of the quilting so you can kind of see it up close when the quilt was on the quilter. I'm really happy with this quilt, and like I said, the pattern is from Moda Fabrics, a free printable, and there is many other patterns on there, so be sure to check that out and find your favorite. Easy to read pattern. The Jeep letters, I know a lot of my friends have asked how I did that. Just in case you haven't seen, the letters I got from the Spelling Bee book from Lori Holt. Another easy idea to follow with very little fabric to make any letter that you want to put into a quilt. So now that I've got this quilt finished, I want to make a little drawstring bag to keep it in my Jeep. This is especially made for my Jeep, you know, to throw over the seat for my dogs. And I just really think it's wonderful, but I'd also like to have it, you know, for picnics or the beach or, you know, going out and sitting somewhere or, you know, driving movie. I could throw it over me. It's just a nice extra blanket. So I had some extra fabric of the Jeep fabric left over, and I think I did like 2.5 yards of this. I'm not even sure what I ordered, but I have some left over, and I'm going to make a drawstring bag to keep my quilt folded up and stored into my Jeep. And I have some similar items here that are very similar, but mine's going to be bigger. But this is something that I made years ago, before I became the YouTube sharer that I am of showing everything. But I'm Jeep obsessed, I'm sorry. But I made this little drawstring bag, and I got this idea from Erica Arndt. I hope I didn't butcher your name, Erica. I love her. I'm a huge fan of hers, and she called this the squishy bag. So this bag has a pocket on the front, and it also has a couple little pockets on the back, and it has this nice drawstring casing, and inside it's lined as well. And this was just something that I had made, and I have another one here because I was obsessed with making Erica's bags, the squishy bags. This one was I have a little tag on it, says my favorite things. And, you know, I had the sewing and the baking and the kitty and I don't know, just some fun stuff on it. I still use these and carry them every now and then. But the bag I'm going to make is very similar to that, but it's not going to have the pockets or anything. And it's going to be a lot bigger. So I am going to show you how I do this. I've got my fabrics already pre-cut, and I'm going to move you down and walk you through on how I do this. And if you would be interested in doing something like this to store a quilt in, I don't know, it's versatile. It's an easy thing to make, just like Erica's squishy bags. So I'm going to show you how I do it. So I'm going to move this down and let you see what I got here. So I've got my outside fabric here, and it is 16 inches wide by 22 inches tall. And I think when my quilt is folded, it should nicely fit into this. And on the bottom, if I can get this into view, I have already drawn some lines to cut out the squares because I am going to box this on the bottom so it has a little shape on the bottom, so when my quilt is folded, it'll fit nicely in here instead of just having a straight seam. My liner is done in the same way, same measurement, 16 wide by 22 tall, and I have already cut out the squares on the corner, and this is going to be the liner, just a plain liner. Not putting any pockets or anything in it. I made the channels already, and I lined these channels because I figured my drawstring is going to be sliding through these a lot, and I feel like there's going to be friction when you close it, because when I pull on the strings, it should cinch shut, and I'll show you how to do that. I did not know how to do that for the longest time, till a few years ago. But you learn things as you go. So I have 2 channels here, and I have measured these to, like, I think they're about 3 inches in width, and I think there's like 12 inches long, but I tucked in the ends, and I stitched them down, and then I just folded them in half. Normally I would just take a piece of fabric and hem it over in the ends, but I wanted the extra liner in this, like I said, with a lot of the friction, because I am going to be putting some paracord in it for my drawstring. Normally I would use fabric and I would just fold it up, which I did on my squishy bags, but this paracord works great. You can find this at the Dollar Tree, Walmart, just about anywhere, and it's just called paracord. And I've got 2 pieces of that, and they're about 40 inches long. I think they're plenty long enough to go in this bag, and there's 2 pieces of this as well. So I'm going to get on to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the sides. No. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out these little squares. Getting ahead of myself. So let me move this one to the side, and I'm going to cut out these squares. And I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing here. So I've already made my mark, and I made these marks, I made them 2.5 inches because this is a pretty big, good sized bag. So that will give me probably about a 4-inch bottom. Since my quilt, when I folded it up and I measured it, this is what I kind of come out to make it wide enough with seam allowance. So it's 16 inches wide, and by the time it's finished, I'm thinking it'll be about 15.5. And then of course, you know, with the boxing on the bottom is going to take away about 2 inches, and then of course my hem on the top. So I think this should fit my quilt nicely. And this is just going to be really simple. I'm just going to cut out these squares on my drawn line. Put that aside. Keep everything out of the way. I don't want to cut anything unnecessary. So these are super simple. I've used this same design to make drawstring backpacks for kids. This is a very versatile kind of pattern, I guess you would say. I don't know, I don't have a pattern for it, I just wing it. So my measurements, it's very simple and basic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew down each side of my outside piece, and I'm going to sew across the bottom here. So I've already got my machine set up, and I don't want to bore you with sewing this together. So I'm going to sew this off camera, and I'm going to do the same thing with my liner. I'm going to cut out the squares on the bottom, and I'm going to sew the sides. And the bottom of the liner, I folded it in half, so I really don't need to sew that because it's already together. So the outside of my bag is 2 pieces. This is just 1 piece, but it was a long continuous piece of scrap that I had, and I just cut it to fit my outside of my bag. So I'm going to cut out the squares on that and sew that up the side, and then I will show you how I'm going to put on the channels and how I'm going to put these 2 pieces together, and it's going to be great. So, all right, if you see here, I've got the sides sewed. I used black thread. I have squared my bottoms on my liner. And I told you that my liner was all in 1 piece, so I just have this little fold line here, which helped line up the side seam to the bottom seam, so I could pull this across and sew it across. So I've left the liner inside out. The Jeep fabric here, I have sewn, and I've also, before I sewed the sides, I did sew on my channels here, and normally I would make this just 1 piece of fabric and put my raw edges to raw edges, but since I put 2 on here, I had kind of like an extra stitch line here, but I just put a stitch line across the top to hold it, but it's still going to get sewed into the seam, so it's not necessary to put you know, a stitch along here. I could have just left that raw, but I was just kind of, I'm winging it. This is just a bag to put my quilts in. So you can see I have this turned right side out. So I need this turned right side out because I'm going to put the outside of the bag inside the liner, and the liner is wrong side out. So you want to have your right sides to right sides, which I'm going to put the outside of the bag to the inside of the bag with the right sides together. And once I get these together, I'm going to tuck everything up, and I'm going to have my raw edges to raw edges, and I'm going to sew it all the way around. So I know this is a process for me to show you this, but I want to line up the side seams on each side. So get this tucked down in here, and I have my 2 side seams put together. I'm just going to throw a clip in there just so they stay pretty close together. So when I sew this, I will start on the seam to make sure that they're together, and then this side seam will be lined up with the, so you want these 2 seams to be nested together, and that's where I'll start sewing. So I'm going to sew this all the way around the top. I'm going to make sure that my flaps are tucked inside. You don't want them hanging out. You want them inside. And like I said, they're going to get re-sewed again. I just sewed them on into place, and how I centered them up to put them in place on the outside of my bag, I folded the outside of my bag in the middle, and I had a little crease line, and then I folded my flaps in half so it made a crease line, and then I lined up my crease line so I know that I have them both perfectly centered. So now you can see that I have my bag all put together, raw edges to raw edges, and I'm just going to sew this all the way around. No, I'm not. I'm getting way ahead of myself. I need to turn this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a hole, and I'll probably leave maybe about a 4-inch hole, just big enough to turn this, and then we can tuck everything in inside, and I can either hand sew it shut, or I can top stitch it all the way around, and I'll probably top stitch it all the way around. So this thing is going to be really secure by the time I'm done stitching it. Normally, if I would have thought, normally when I make bags like this, I leave a hole in the side, and then I would turn it through the side. But since I've already sewed this and not even thinking, like I said, this bag is just something that I'm throwing together just to put my quilt in. So I haven't really given much thought. Sometimes I just get happy when I'm sewing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a hole right here between these 2 clips, and then I will be able to turn my bag, and then I will fold in the raw edges of my hole, and I can top stitch it all the way around. And I'm going to do that with like a 1/4 inch or maybe a little over a 1/4 inch seam. That way I'll have enough overhang to tuck down in nicely when I turn it right side out, and it'll just all fold in nicely, and I can press it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew this all the way around, leave the hole, and I'll press the hole so that the seams go in, top stitch it all the way around, and then I can put in my paracord and check and see if my quilt is going to fit. Now, something I didn't take in consideration when I cut this is maybe I should have made it a little bit wider, because I totally forgot about the corners is going to take away like 2.5 inches on each side of my bag. But I think my quilt will still fit in this, and I'll probably just kind of roll it up nice and tight, and it should slide right in my bag and keep nice and clean in my bag. So, all right, so I'm going to get on with that, and I'll show you the finished product. All right, I'm just going to show you real quick the hole that I left. I'm not even sure where it is now. It was in the inside of the seam of the channel, and instead of sewing this all the way around, I like the way it looks. It looks nice and finished. So what I got here is I have some of this fusible web tape, and I had gotten this from Sheets So Creative. I was supposed to do a demo on some of these, but this was just something here I had. It's a 1/4 inch fusible web, and I just put it inside of my open seam. And this stuff was nice and thin. It was like, because it's a 1/4 inch wide, and I just pressed it down and it closed up that hole. I think it's this one right here. I closed it up, and I don't think it's gonna come open. Like I said, this is just a bag to store stuff in. So this stuff I think is pretty amazing. It's made by Pellon. It's Wonder Web fusible web tape. So if you're looking for something to close up a seam, you might want to try it. This is on Sheets So Creative website if you want to check it out. I think this is going to do the trick. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my paracord put in here, and I want to show you real quick because I did not know this about making a drawstring bag, and you need 2 pieces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed one of these. I'm going to feed the end through here and then take it back through here. So when I get this in, I'm going to have the folded end on this side and the 2 open ends on the other side. My second piece, I am going to feed it in from the right side and then through the other side, and then I will have my folded end on this side on my left and on the other folded end on my right. So when I pull this on both ends, it will cinch my bag. I did not know this for the longest time, so I'm self-taught, so I've learned to do this the right way, and so you can cinch your bag close. So I'm going to get onto this, and hopefully I can roll my quilt up so that it fits into this bag, because I miscalculated on taking in the bottom and boxing it, so it shrunk my bag a little skinnier than what it should be. But if all else fails and my quilt doesn't fit in this bag, I will use it for my Jeep ducks. Because I did order some ducks for ducking for my new Jeep. So worst case scenario, I will use this bag for my ducks. Or if my quilt fits in that bag, I'm going to use my squishy Jeep bag for my ducks. I don't know. So whatever works. Like I said, this is just something that's for fun. I just threw this together. It's nothing fancy. It's just something to keep my blanket in. So stay tuned for amazing pictures. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, please subscribe, and stay tuned to my channel, and I'll chat at you later. Guess what? It fits! Yay! I'm so excited. So my Jeep bag fits in here, or my quilt fits into my Jeep bag. It's awesome. So I'm gonna get the drawstrings put on it, and it's gonna be amazing in my Jeep. So stay tuned. Watch those pictures. I've got some great shots for you. What you see here is my dog quilt getting quilted. I'm so excited. I am on row 4 of 6, and I thought I would kind of let you see how the process is going. Look at those cute little doggy prints. I'm in love with this quilt. It's absolutely just gorgeous. So fitting for my doggies. And my Jeep, of course. You can kind of see how the prints are coming on. Just a really fun quilt. I am super happy with this. And row 4 is almost completed, and I'm just going to kind of let you see how the stitching is going down. It's so cute. The footprints really show up in the gray. I'm using a light gray thread, which gives off a nice little contrast, but doesn't overbear my quilt. This was called Paws and Swirls. So it has these little swirls in it, and the paws are 3 different sizes. There's large, medium, and small, and it kind of reflects how my dogs are. The big white one. Couldn't see the kind of medium, and then Doo-Doo, the little baby, as we like to call him. Oh, looking great.